one of the librarians here at the Newton Free Library, and I'm going to be telling you about some of the great books we have on the Going into 6th Grade book list. That is a list that was put together by the school librarians and librarians here at the Newton Free Library. The whole idea is for you to enjoy reading and have fun over the summer, which means you do not have to read the books on this list. It is totally up to you and your choice. You can read anything that you want all summer long. In addition, I just want to point out that you can listen to books. Here at the library, there are 3 ways that you can borrow books to which you listen. You can download an e-audio book onto a device. So that's just like an e-book that you would download onto a device, but after you download it, you listen to it rather than read it. You can also, from the library, borrow books on CD, those ones that look like that. And you can borrow playaways, which are these nifty devices, because here it is. You add your earbuds and a battery if there isn't one, and that's it. You don't need any device, because this is a device with the book already built in, so you are ready to go to listen. So on the list, there are lots of different kinds of books, including nonfiction. One of which is this book. It's called Don't Read This Book Before Bed, Thrills, Chills, and Hauntingly True Stories. So this goes through a lot of different ideas and tells you what's true about them and what isn't, including jelly from space, creeps of the deep, and Lurking in the Lake, which covers such topics as the Loch Ness Monster. The next book is called Masterchef Junior Cookbook. So for any of you that are fans of the TV show, I'm sure some of you have seen it. These are all recipes that come from the show, and it does also include fun photos from the show. All kinds of recipes in here that you can make to share with your family. You could make salmon with asparagus, pumpkin ravioli, and yes, desserts, including my favorite. You have this amazing looking chocolate raspberry cake. Notice the different colored raspberries that are included and the chocolate flavored shavings. And I just, with this one, want to point out that I'll be here all summer long, 5 days a week. So when you make this one slice. That's all you have to bring me here at the library. This book is a collection of poems. It's called Traveling the Blue Road, Poems of the Sea, collected by Lee Bennett Hopkins. And it has poems that tell the stories of different ship voyages over time, including this one called Titan. And this one also happens to be written by Lee Bennett Hopkins. I was Titanic, the largest, most luxurious ship the world had ever known. I was the liner serving soda scones with Oxford marmalade, filet mignon, lamb with mint sauce, tapioca, and plum pudding to a very special class of passengers. Men, women, children, dogs, cats, birds, rats, millionaires, dowagers, those are rich older ladies, dignitaries, celebrities, servants, and refugees roamed my vastness. I was one who gave, still gives, will forevermore give to historians with so much poetic prose to pen. Sailing ship of fantasy dreams, through a breathtaking glass dome, sunlight streams. People dressed in finest garb waltz down a staircase from way up high. Calm, motionless seas under a crystal clear, moonless sky. Now, more than a century ago. Now, I no longer was, but am, as I continue to fascinate, captivate, thrill, titillate, will eternally be the Titan of the sea. You will forever remember me. So that's one of the examples of poems in this great book. All right, moving on to fiction. This is called Armstrong and Charlie. The author's last name is Frank. So this one's historical fiction. It takes place in LA in the 1970s, and it's about desegregation, which, as I am sure you remember, is trying to take groups of people who are separated usually by race and bring them together. And this one is specifically about desegregation in schools, and the way that happened was through busing. So typically, African American kids were brought on buses from the neighborhoods where they lived to the neighborhoods where the white kids lived and brought to their schools. And this was often a really hard experience because the bus ride could be an hour and a half, 2 hours long. So this is about Charlie, who is one of the boys in the middle-class white suburb. When all of his friends' parents find out that there's going to be busing, they all pull their kids out of the public school and send them to private schools because they don't want them to be interacting with the African-American kids. So only Charlie is left. It's also about Armstrong, who is one of those African-American kids who's being bused in. And it's about how they get to know each other and how their relationship builds, given that these are two middle school kids coming from very, very different backgrounds. Armstrong and Alright, this one is called Black Panther the Young Prince, written by Ronald Smith. So this is part of a whole series of books that are taking the superhero characters that you know from comics, but they're being written into regular fiction books. They're not graphic novels at all. And in addition to this one, there are others, and they're all written by really great authors, so I suggest that in general you check them all out. And all of them are about the superheroes as teenagers. So in this case, the Black Panther in question is not actually yet the Black Panther. He is the son of the current Black Panther. So T'Challa is the prince. And what happens is that Wakanda is under attack. And so his father decides to send T'Challa and his best friend off to the US where they will be safe. And he chooses to send them to Chicago and to join a public middle school there, where T'Challa learns all kinds of things about life he hadn't known, and he also has interactions with a gang there in Chicago who seem to be delving into some black magic. So even though he's sent off to Chicago to try to be safe, things get a little bit tricky over there for T'Challa.
There are some awesome graphic novels on the going into 6th grade list. Here is one of them. It's called 5 Worlds, The Sand Warrior, and it's the first in a new sci-fi series, and it's very complicated. There are 5 different worlds, and they're explained a little bit right here. And then we have 3 characters who have to struggle and save the different worlds from the brink of extinction. So we have this boy here. His name is Ansu, and he plays a magical flute. And then we have Una Lee, who is a sand dancer. And then we have Jax Amboy, who is an athlete. And they're quirky, interesting characters that are trying to save the world. And here's the boy, the athlete. He's able to do a little sand dancing with his face. And then here we have Una Lee, who is able to do some incredible things as a sand dancer. So if you like really complicated graphic novels with 5 different worlds, you'll like reading The Sand Warrior. And the other graphic novel I'd like to talk to you about is called The Witch Boy. Even magic has rules. Everyone in Aster's family is born with magic. Boys grow up to be shapeshifters, girls into witches. No exceptions. But Aster just can't seem to get the hang of shapeshifting. Instead, he spends his time spying on the witchery lessons the girls are getting, and he's really good at casting the spells, and he wants to know more. The only person he can share his gift with is Charlie, a girl from the non-magical side of town. And then during a night of shape-shifting practice, which Aster is totally not into doing, he realizes that one of the boys goes missing. And this is what happens. that night. One of the boys just disappears into a thin thread. So Esther is wondering what is going on. And here is the girl, Charlie, who lives on the other side of the boundary. And Charlie has broken her leg, and Charlie really, really wants to play basketball. It's a great friendship story. It's a great story about what do you do if your talents aren't what they are supposed to be. And the illustrations are magnificent, and it's called The Witch Boy. The next book I want to talk to you about is called Elizabeth and Zenobia. Elizabeth moves to a new home called Withering House, and it's a creepy old mansion where her father grew up. And Elizabeth has a really unusual friend named Zenobia who never leaves her side and is very brave. And this is Zenobia, the pale girl. Now, no one else but Elizabeth can see Zenobia, so her dad thinks, this must just be an imaginary friend. But she really exists. Zenobia leads them through adventures in the house, and she wants to do a seance. She is determined to summon the dead in this house. The two girls do discover some long-lost hidden secrets, especially when they explore the East Wing, a place they are specifically forbidden to explore. And I'll read you a passage. I am certain there is a presence here in this very room, announced Zenobia. Do you not feel it too? Do you not feel a frisson? I need to know what a frisson was before I could know if I felt one or not, I said. It's a delightful shiver of mystery and terror and pleasure, all combined. I do feel a shiver, though I wouldn't say it was a frisson. I'm inclined to put it down to the wallpaper. Nursery wallpaper usually shows smiling suns peeking from behind clouds, or characters from Mother Goose, or sprays of soft pink roses growing over white lattice. But this wallpaper was quite different. It was vivid green, and it showed a garden, but a strange garden. Every inch of the paper crawled with vines and tendrils. A twisted tree sprouting dark spiky leaves took up most of one wall. When shadows moved across the wall, they made it seem as if the leaves on the tree were rustling, as if the whole wallpaper garden was moving, slithering. The wallpaper is grotesque, Zenobia agreed, and not even pleasantly grotesque, but she firmly closed both eyes. You'll never learn to sense the spirits, Elizabeth, if you remain so concerned with earthly details like wallpaper. I tried not to look at the wallpaper. Then something in it made me start. A pair of eyes. They belonged to a girl, a wallpaper girl, a girl maybe a little younger than me, who was looking out at me from the wallpaper just to the left of the windowsill. But not really looking at me, I told myself. How could she be looking at me? She was part of the paper's pattern, nothing more. All the same, I decided I had spent enough time in the nursery. Zenobia, I began. Zenobia's head was tipped back and her hands trembled. She murmured incantations under her breath. Zenobia, I really think we should... Not now, Elizabeth. Zenobia spoke from the side of her mouth. The presence is about to reveal itself. A shadow fell across the room. My insides went cold. And here's what Elizabeth saw. Find out what happens, you'll have to read Elizabeth in Zenobia, a very creepy book. To you about is called The Van Gogh Deception. And this is a book about a 12-year-old boy who is found in the National Gallery of Art in Washington, D.C. He does not know who he is. He does not know his name. He doesn't know where his parents are, and he doesn't know his parents' names. The security guard who finds him calls the police, helps him get hooked up with a foster family. The foster family has a very nice mom and a daughter named Camille. And through Camille's help, the boy realizes, I know a lot about Degas, Monet, Renoir, Van Gogh, and I know some French, and maybe, just maybe, I even lived in France. So Camille convinces him to go back to the National Gallery of Art because maybe he will remember even more things about his life. So the two children go there, and while they're there, they get kidnapped. What is going on? To find out, you'll have to read the Van Gogh Deception. And what I really like about this book is that there's a map in the beginning of Washington, D.C., and my rule of thumb is if the author has a map, he or she has thought through what's really going on with the plot and the setting. And then the other way cool thing about this book is that there are QR codes throughout. So if you use a tablet or a smartphone and read the code, the piece of artwork will pop right up that they're describing in the book. So if you like art, you like mysteries, and you like Washington, D.C., you'll like reading Van Gogh Deception.